hopefully. You seeing my cursor? I'm not seeing it on the little deal. Bear with me a second. Anybody see that big cursor? You're seeing it? Okay. I can't see it on my little monitor, but I guess that's okay. All right, so you do see it. All right, so basically, and we'll make this probably fairly short tonight because I really think that most of you get this to begin with. But in the very near future, we're going to have three trade setups added to Object Trader. Pat and I've been talking about this for a little while, and I really think that we can do this to where if we have some algorithm to it, that we can all get some pretty decent trade setups, okay? But what we're going to do is we're going to just simply go for the first trade setup, and then if you want to leave it turned on, then it's up to you, but it will literally look for the first time after a trend change, okay? And first time after a trend change, to me, is some of the absolute best trade setups. I'll bet even this one worked out, actually. Let's just draw a box and see if it did. I'll draw a box right through here, and I'm going to draw another box right through here. See, because that's a stair step. Okay. Now, keep in mind that you can also look for these little crooks as it does it. See, like step and then a little step right there. Notice how that's actually just a little bit more crooked up. See from here. So that's an actual stair step. This is just a single step. That's an extra step, but this is really truly a bigger step. Okay. This just has some weeds in the cracks. This is basically what it boils down to. But this is your trade setup right here for sure. Okay. Now, if it doesn't work, frankly, you've just got to, suck it up and go on to the next trade, because this is a true trade setup right here. And I have no idea what this thing's going to do, but just simply by the stair stepping, I would just about bet you that there's going to be a trade somewhere in this area right here. About 3 ticks above or 3 ticks under, somewhere in that area, you should get a trade. Okay. So that's what we're going to look at. All right. Now, if you get one trade under your belt and learn to really, really, really look for these stair steppers, I think you'll do pretty good in your trading. Let's just go over here and look. You could just about bet you that this had some pretty good moves right in here. And obviously this is going to be an area in through here for, see how it stair stepped way above the previous swing and everything. This is a stair stepping midband. This is a stair stepping midband. See, something like this. Okay. So when you see that type of thing happen, it doesn't hurt at all to, basically box these in, because if you box them in, you're going to find out that you'll get some pretty decent little trade setups. And I personally like to trade these. And keep in mind that you've got to always be careful with trades, but you've also got to realize that our product, okay, like let's say for instance right here, let's just say that this happens to fire. Okay. Now to me, well, we know it went up, so that's a no-brainer just looking at this, obviously. But let's say that you're seeing it right here. Okay. You don't know anything except this is stair stepping up, this is taking out some highs, and this is a decent trade setup. Okay. Now the key to it is, do you want to put your stop, like something like this if you're doing a mid-band trade, which we found just doesn't work enough, because frankly, you're going to want to check your Fibonacci's and everything too. And we don't know what these fibs are right here. But let's say, for instance, that you get in somewhere in this area right here, then a lot of our traders will literally keep their stop down in this area right here. Now, with any kind of an auto type deal, I think you're going to have to, because what I'm trying to do is get something that we can all kind of take to the bank. And if you've seen the way Object Trader does, when you start stair stepping, for instance, this little area holds until it doesn't. Okay, and then when it starts stair stepping again, it holds till it doesn't. So a lot of our traders will actually put a stop, like at line 0. Now from mid-band to line 0 is pretty huge. Okay, that's 6, 6, 6, and 6. That's 24 ticks. Okay, and that's a lot. And I feel it with you too, because frankly, I try to check my Fibonacci's and things like that, and I can kind of tell where they're going to go to begin with, and how deep they're going to go, because you're looking at the fibs also. But anyway, if you get in a trade like this and it happens to not work, you can always get out of it and get back in. Okay, but we're going to build something that will actually get a mid-band trade, and it'll even get a phantom if you want it, like on your multiple, basically your object types. Okay, but let's just see if something like this worked, and we put our stop at line 3. Okay, that's a very tight stop. Okay, and then if it does take line 3 out, then we get in at line 1 to 2. Okay, and I'll put this, we'll leave these boxes on, we're going to just see if some trades set up. All right, so let's go back to 6 o'clock. Now that's a stair stepper too, right? Okay, this is even a stair stepper here, like so. Not so much here, okay, because it just barely did a little bit step and then a step. I like it to do a little bit more, like kind of a little thrust up, pull to the side, and then another thrust up. That works the best. Okay, so anywhere in this area probably would be a trade, but we'll see that in just a minute if it is. Okay, all right, and then let's see what happened. Now that's a stair stepper to the downside, wouldn't you think? A little stair stepper to the downside. So if you were looking at this trade right here, for instance, no, it went on up, so it never rolled over. So there's another mid-band trade there, stair stepped up. And there's a stair stepper down right now. But keep in mind, one thing I want to show you today, remember when I did ES this morning? I let it pull back against me pretty good. simply because of the fact that you've got to. Because when they do this big old thrust up, they're liable to do a deeper retracement because, frankly, if let's say they got in like down in this area here, that's roughly a 50% pullback to that area. So you want to be careful getting short on something that's bursting to the upside. Okay. All right, let's see if there's another one. See, that was a fake right there, never took out swing. So is that a decent area right there for very possibly a trade? Let's see. We'll just put a little box there also. This definitely would be, right? Because it stair stepped up. So let's see if there's trades here when we get through. All right, this did stair step down right here, but again, it's a big uptrend. So you got to kind of look at your Fibonacci's and see that started stair stepping back up again, then sideways. Now that's starting to stair step down right there. That would be a good area to look for a mid-band type trade to the downside because it broke support. Okay, so let's do one in this one, like at a mid-band area. And let's see if it was heading down like right through here, breaking. You probably have to flatten out some, so I just say right through here. We'll just do that. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trade setups. So let's just see if at least 3 of those worked out. So what I'm going to do, we'll leave the boxes right there, and then we're going to change the template to the normal power dots. And we'll have to go back to this time because this automatically goes to the end. All right, and then let's go back to our times. Let it go ahead and load. I'm going to get rid of that shotgun indicator. I'm not so sure that shotgun indicator is going to do us anything the way these markets are moving. All right, so let's go back. What time was that? About 6 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock, right in that area. Let's see. There they are right there. Okay, there was no trade here. No big deal. There was a trade here. We missed that one. But let's just say we missed it. There's a trade right there. There's your first trade. There's 1. There's 2. That's a little iffy, but it still went up out of the box or a mid-band type trade setup. And then here's your phantom. Now, we didn't talk about the phantom as much yet, but if you're stair stepping with these things and they get these phantoms like this right through here, a lot of our people take those trades. All right, but let's just say we got 1, 2, 3, maybe got this one. And then we blocked off this one, didn't we? Because that was a downtrend. So that's a mid-band power dot, did not stop you out. And then, of course, we didn't even go any further. So let's say that you got 1 good trade, felt a little bit of heat, 2 good trade. If you even use the phantom, let's call that a good trade. And then this trade here, and then this trade here. And could you actually be done? That's 6 o'clock to an hour later. That's it. That's an hour's worth of trading is all that is. So if you did, keeping in mind that you could ride these things, obviously, because I teach that in other webinars. But let's just say that you did $200 on this, 2 contracts, $200, $200 on that one. Didn't feel enough heat. You definitely got it. This one here, I think you might have gotten it. If you didn't, you definitely did with the phantom. So there's, let's say that's 2, 2, scratch, 2, 2 for sure, and that's all. So you got 2, 4, 6, 8, $800. That's without taking any other type of trade. Now, we're also going to build a little trader for these line in the sand long shorts that I think is going to be pretty cool. What we're going to be looking at is just like I teach in my webinars all the time. Okay, you got a low here, a high here, a lower low. You put a line across here. They break that and kiss it. You also draw the next level up if you see it, like a little swing right across there. And if it breaks that, you go long. Yeah, these are Central Time, Dave. I'm always Central Time. I'm in Oklahoma. So see, you can take those trades too, especially when they break and kiss. Okay. So I would say that this type of thing just works more than it doesn't. Now, you can't just go in and out, in and out. And one thing I would caution for the next several days, possibly, who knows how long, I don't know personally, but I can tell you this, that there's a lot of movement in these markets and you got to be darn careful with your money because you don't want to lock up your computer and you don't want to get on the wrong side of a trade. And that can happen so easily that it's unreal. So don't let that happen to you. Okay. Let's go ahead. I'm going to go to ES now and show you a couple of things. Bear with a second. ES is going to take as long as NASDAQ to calculate. Isn't that crazy? No, that's Dave. That's the reason that I actually chose that though, is because so many people do trade at 6 a.m. in the morning, which is 7 a.m. Eastern time. That's a real popular time to trade. And even 5 a.m. my time, which is 6 a.m. New York time, is another real good time to trade. But let's just go over a couple of more just for the fun of it. Okay. Let's do one. Matter of fact, just here's 5 o'clock in the evening, just opened up. Okay. 5 p.m. All right, you've got a mid-band to the downside, but what's the overall trend is still up, so you'd want to be careful with that. Okay, so let's see what happens here. If it gets a green mid-band, that's what I'd be looking for a stair stepper. There's a green mid-band. Okay, so if you don't ever want to go with the trend that you get up with, by the way, let's say you started at 5 p.m. today and you don't want to take a short, then wait for the trend change. one thing that I found that really works extremely well in trading is don't just go getting in at the bottom of a short or the top of a long, because they change quite often. Okay, so let's see here. We're going to identify this trade as soon as it sets up. That's a stair stepper. That's for sure a stair stepper. So let's start drawing a box and see if we can get a trade somewhere in this area right here, if it'll do it. And you want to look at your Fibonacci. This isn't going to work because it's going to go to the end of the chart. So I'll do this instead. If that's the high, I would want it to at least come down to the 50% more than likely, but let's see if it goes higher. That looks like it to me. Now, could it go deeper? Yeah, unfortunately, they do a lot, but let's see if they get to a 50. I would go ahead probably and either fire this trade right here on this bar, or I'd wait for a power dot, or wait for it to kiss that 50%. Let's see what it does. Bar down, bar up. There's a power dot. All right, so you're in the trade. Your stop's right here just under this little swing. Let's see if it worked. There you go. See, these stair steppers are absolutely the key to making money. I just firmly believe they are. Now, do they do it every single time? No. But if you actually diagnose your chart correctly, you're going to be right a lot more than you're going to be wrong. Okay? Because, you know, for instance, at 5 o'clock today, was this really in a downtrend? Was this really a downtrend? It's sideways junk right at the bell, basically, right about through here. But it was still in an uptrend. Okay? So that's another thing that you've got to really look at. See how these markets move? Just start training your eyes to see this, and you'll see it. So they go deeper on these retraces. That looks like about a 61.8. And Essie did so many trades today, it was unreal. But if you train your eye to see some of these trades, here's a stair stepper that went all the way to Phantom. But if you checked your Fibonacci's, you probably wouldn't have gotten in here till it got to a 50% or a 61 to begin with. And there's 61 right there and 50 right there. So when they burst up like this and they do stair step, the way markets run is they continually do this, your first thrust, and then you've got to get some kind of a pullback. And then you get another thrust. And when they break these side swings over here to the left, you can pretty much count on the fact that they're heading up, not down. Let me show you how I do that when I'm trading. See, when you look at this chart right here, you know that your line in long short is right there. I teach that in a lot of webinars. And then it goes down a little bit deeper, like so, and your line in long short is right across here and here. So if they go taking that out, see like that, then you can count on a pullback. It's just inevitable. It just happens. Okay, and then you can get some of these pretty good trades. Now, if you're going to be the type of trader that just bounces in and out, and look at all this junky noise right here. Okay, would you have gotten out of that trade if you got in on that power dot? Most of our traders wouldn't. You know, you've got to kind of trust what's actually happening on your chart. Otherwise, you're going to get taken out of these trades a lot. Okay, I'll show you, as a matter of fact, before we close the webinar tonight. We're getting ready to post all the trades. I just got through putting some more into the Excel sheet, and I've got some more that I've got to enter into it also that I'm downloading from tradesviz.com. I found out they only let you do 10 accounts. So I had to do the platinum package to get 20 accounts. And so you'll be able to see literally all of our trades, period, for like the last year. And NinjaTrader requires that it's at least current within 90 days. So it'll definitely be current because it's current as of 4/4, which was Friday. And today wasn't in the TradeViz yet. Okay. So real quick question. And I know Bob, for instance, he does a lot of this. I don't see him in the webinars. He usually mostly comes to the room and he watches the webinars probably on his own time. But let me ask you a quick question. Even this trade right here, because you can see with these little 4-range bars how many of them just slopped around. Okay. But if you look at the Fibonacci's on here, could you get in this trade, for instance, when it touched the 50% and you got that power dot right there? Because in hindsight, obviously you could see that was a good move, but you're getting in it at that 50%. Okay. You're in it, but where's your stop on this trade setup? A lot of our people do this right here, line 0. If you get in right here at line 3, then line 0 is actually 18 ticks. That's a lot. With 2 contracts, that's a lot. Now, what I a lot of times do with mine is I turn on like power dot, for instance, and then I do only 1 contract. And then if I get like another power dot, I get a second contract. And if I don't trust it at that point, then I'm not going to add a third one. Okay. Because 2 alone, if you get in here and here at the same spot, really, you're going to feel about $300 worth of heat there. And you'll see when you see the trades, you're going to see some $300 and $400 losses, and even as high as I think 1,500 on that one. That was a slap though. I could tell you that because I don't get hit for 1500 ever unless it was a slap and I was in 5 contracts, because markets can slap you. This morning on ES, when I was trading it with Blue Sky, and that silly thing was all over the place. But overall, the trend was up. So every time I would hit those lows, I would just simply add a contract. And it was in no more than 4. And the silly thing did just close to 12,000. But was I getting in and out of these things like this where it just, barely goes up and then kind of goes in your face and you go, uh-oh, where's this thing going? Well, it's already taken out swings to the left. So is it heading up? It's your first thrust, retrace thrust. Okay. That's something that every trader is going to have to make up their mind. If you looked at a big chart, that's probably just a big wick. We look at 4 range charts. So when these bars just whip around like that, see, that's actually, if you look at this right here, that's literally 1 minute from there and still going and still going and still going and still going and still going. And right there is going into the second minute right there. That is 1 minute worth of bars. Now, when something like that happens in 1 minute, are you going to get taken in and out and lose $1,000 here instead? What I find is that when they break the left-hand side of the chart and they break it with a vengeance, you're going to get a retracement. Sad to say, there's not a trader on the planet that can tell you if it's going to be a 50 or a 61 or even possibly close to a 76. But our scripts, I personally believe, are good enough that these phantoms just don't get taken out. If they get taken out, they're changing trends. See how that broke phantom changed trends? But until it does, you can pretty much trust it. Now, would you feel a little bit of heat on that trade if you got in here at 82.75 and went as low as 80? What is that? That's 2, that's 8, that's 11 ticks, right? So 11 ticks with ES is what, $275, right? With 2 contracts? So that's a bunch. But like I say, I don't think there's a single trader out there that you're going to make money if you just get in and out, in and out, in and out, especially with the changes that the market has done lately. You just can't do it. Now, a little bit more methodical in the past, possibly, but we're in a whole nother atmosphere. I mean, we're literally in the stratosphere on these trades now. So we've got to be adaptive, but with price action the way it does, you notice that this does this quite often. So if you get in like a mid-band trade like that, see, that's a mid-band power dot right there, and there's phantom right there. Now, a lot of times what our traders will do is get in a mid-band power dot, and with our new trader that we've got coming out, you'll be able to actually have a mid-band power dot and a phantom. You could do that now even with the multiple object types, but this is going to look more for stair stepping. It won't fall as much for the junk. Okay, but see, you would have missed out on a great trade if you wouldn't have held on to that trade. Now, even this one here, see a phantom right here? That's a decent trade right there. And was that a stair stepping mid-band? Let's see here. Yeah, 1, 2, 3 anyway. So that's a stair stepper. There's a mid-band trade there and there's a phantom trade there. But like I say, I really think if you'll get in the habit of noticing that when our trend changes, that you can look that direction until they decide to go with the line in the sands and break back to the other side. Okay, let's look at crude real quick. Let's see if the same thing applies to crude. We'll just simply go, here's a short trade somewhat, stair stepper, mid-band trade, phantom trade. There's 2 trades that worked. All right, let's see what it does. It's getting ready. It looks like change trends. See it? Now that's not a stair stepper yet. That is a mid-band trade though. You can box it. And there's your mid-band power dot. Now that trade to me right there would not qualify with the new trader because it would have to take out this swing to the left right here. And it did not do that. And that's the way Pat's going to code that too. Now it did take out this little one right here to the left. And I don't know if he's going to code it that sensitive or not, because that did take that little crook out right there, which would make that legit if he did that. Okay. Let's see, of the trades you teach, which would be the best for beginner or or dumb people, Dave? That's not nice. No, you're not by any means dumb. Give me a break. You're a good guy. Best trade for beginners. I would personally say, Dave, if you go back to these trades that I teach here, let's just go back to the open. Let's just see if it worked all the way at the open. Keep in mind, I call some good trades in the room too. We get some good trades. I'm going to go back to the open. I open the room at 7:30ish. So let's see if this works. All right, so I don't open until 7:30. Stair step in mid-band, little crook. Let's see if it broke it. It's right at it. When it's right at it, now be sure and do your fibs. if this is even the high, but keep in mind, you got to start doing your fib. You can do it auto. Goes up higher, that's okay. That's the high right there, it looks like to me. All right, so right now, I would be looking for a 50%, and I'd be looking for a 61.8. So let's see, let's get this one out of the way. Let's see if that works. Little sweet spot right there. That one tagged it. 10 ticks, no. So you stopped out at break even. Now you're looking for a phantom. There's your phantom. Stops at line 0. It's getting deeper. There you go, you got it. See what I was saying about when they break and change trend directions? That's when they do this thrust, retrace, and another thrust. So it didn't work quite as well as I would have liked it to, but notice that it did hit the 50% and bounce. So if you had an order sitting there at 40, you got 10 ticks. That's what some of our people do all the time, is don't wait for the bar to close, because that costs you 4 ticks. That's a 50% retracement. We usually bounce. I thought about even building a trader that would just simply do a few ticks off of every Fibonacci. Because I could tell you this, that as a rule, in a trend change at least, they will bounce off the 50 and they'll bounce off the 61 and very possibly even the 76. That's usually what they do. Pardon me. See, that was a pretty good move. Remember, I called that trade this morning. Remember it? Why was that trade called this morning? Because we were waiting for mid-band type trade. I wasn't even open. I didn't open today until right at 7:35. And that's right across this area right here. So did we get this trade? No, we actually got this trade. I also called it out, if you wanted to, with a trend line break. A lot of times you want to take these trend lines and just go ahead and get out, and that's fine if you're a scalper. Now, if you're a trender and you want to get a trade, then what you want to get is a thrust, a retrace, and keep in mind this retrace cannot, under any circumstances, take this out, because then you'd be breaking line and sound long short. So with the higher low, that's when you expect this to do 1, 2, 3 at least. Look to the left to trade the right, and you got a monster move. Okay. That's one of my favorite trade setups right there, is when you just get through with like a somewhat of a downtrend and they bust the side left. See where you have a high, low, lower high, lower low? That's a lightning 3 right there. So did they break it? Yes, they did. And you can see it if you draw it too. Let me show it to you. See your lightning 3? High, low, lower high, lower low. So when does this actually break trend? It breaks trend when they take this back up. And they took it back up right through there, and then they gave you a pullback. And then you get your move. I was going to show you also, though, this trade was also called in the room this morning. You remember it? Why was it called this morning? Anybody? What's the name of the webinar tonight? Stair steps, right? Stair stepping only for the best trades. So let me ask you a quick question. You got a high here, you got a low here, you got a high here. So this is actually your line in San Long short. I don't ever short that trade right there because it'll bounce right in your face a lot of times. So then I look at, okay, if they break 1, 2, and then break this, then I'm kind of looking, maybe they're going to break down. So you draw on your chart, and they did break down, and they kiss it. See how that works? Now, to me, that's also a no-brainer trade right there, because you were stair-stepping your mid-band big time. And if you look to the left to trade the right, you'll see when they stair-step these. Now, keep in mind that when they change a color like this, they went deep to begin with. See this little, if you draw a line right there where that turned magenta, right there, that's all the way down here. Okay, so that didn't even change to magenta until it's way down here. So what you're looking for is at least a 1, 2, 3. You got to break the left side of the long side. Okay, your left side of the long side is right across there, so they broke it, and then you get that beautiful mid-band trade, and you got a great downtrend. Okay, but again, all you got to do is just get 1 or 2 of these trades. I mean, our family this morning, I told you already this morning, 600 and something on my side. My wife was 360 and 370. My daughter was 220. My son didn't trade, but all you got to do is catch 1 or 2. That's it. And if you're continually trading with these markets bouncing around like they do, you're jumping in where you shouldn't be. You've got to wait for these trades to come to you. Okay. To me, just to give you an example, there is only a trade right here, but we weren't open yet. Okay. That's a trade setup. This trade is your mid-band type or your phantom type trade, right? There's another one right here. It definitely ratcheted up. So there's another trade right across here at a mid-band. Okay. There's a phantom trade right here, but is it the first time after trend change? No, it's not. So is that a legitimate phantom? Not really. Okay. Because you'll find when they do, the first time into phantom is probably 80% probability trade. Okay. Somewhere around in there. This one's probably around 50. And I don't like a coin toss, because that means as a rule that you're going to lose money on the trade. How many times you've flipped a coin and it's been in your favor, even at 50-50? It's just kind of Murphy's Law in a way. Okay. But you'll find that if you got this trade this morning that was called, and let's say that you took your coin and then you got in again, right when it kissed that box again and got that monster, then you quit for the day. You're done. Because if you do this and constantly do this, waiting for first time into phantom, first time into mid band, ratchets up, another mid band, ratchets up, another phantom if you want it, but I don't like two phantoms. Phantoms are deeper. But that's up to you too. You could possibly have made 10 ticks on that trade. Okay. But then when they change trends, you're looking for first time in the mid band, second time in the mid band, not as likely, phantom. There's your phantom trade. Because that happens all the time. Pat and I were looking at this, kind of looking at charts just over and over. First time in the mid band, next time you want the phantom. And if you got that trade and that trade, you didn't even have to get these trades. See what I mean? And then if you get another trend change, let's see if we did. See, there's a line stand long short. Now, this trade I didn't teach tonight, but I've got a full webinar on that. That is a good trade setup. And I probably already had that marked from earlier on oil. But anyway, that's your line and sand trade. You can see it. It's right across here even. See your lightning 3, low, high. Pardon me, just one second. Like Charles used to say, I got a tickle in my throat. Okay, so that's what we call a line in the sand long short trade right there. But that's definitely a stair-stepping midband on this little pup. Does anybody remember we nailed that trade too this morning? But then let's see if you got any kind of a midband trade on that puppy. There it is right there. Was that stair-stepping? Yes. Now, would you have missed all this? No. But that's the only midband trade. The rest of this was just these power dots. And I'll take these in a heartbeat too. If I miss this trade here and I don't even catch it when it takes out this swing to the left here, then I'm going to grab this power dot, or when it comes close. Where Charles used to do this is when it came close to stealth or line 6. That's another good entry on the trade. Okay, let's see if it changed trends again at all. Beautiful. Stair-stepping midband. So to me, it's just almost a no-brainer to just get a few trades. And again, when you see the trades that Linda and I do, you're going to see some losers too, because it's still up over $300,000. But we don't get all winner trades. You can't. I mean, if you think you're going to get all winner trades, well, if you decide to hold it, for instance, if you're really convinced it's going up and you hold it, well, guess what? You might have a $1,000 loss instead of a $300 loss. But you're going to have some $200 and $300 losses in trading because it just happens. When you get into a trade, for instance, like right here, just to give an example, this doesn't look like much, but it really is in a way. Let's say that you got in right at midband, 61.38, and that went all the way down to 61.33. That's the only 5 ticks. But if you had 3 contracts, that's a $150 loss if you just decided to hit the button. See what I mean? So, if you have little losses, then don't fret about it, because, if you did this trade the way it's taught, for instance, right around midband, it went back under the box, no question about it. So would you get out of that trade? I don't normally, but I've been hit before. We've all been hit. There's not a question about it. You're going to get hit. I'll show you something here real quick. Let me see if I got it here. Let's see, that one's, let me get another sheet here because I've been working on the one we're putting actually on the website. It is called Viper Trades. Where'd it go? Did I not save it to my desktop, or where did I put it? Here it is. Here, I'm going to show this to you just one second. We go to the front. Okay, so right here, just real quick. This is 4-3. That was Friday, right? Or Thursday. Was that Thursday? All right, see, there's $410, 400, 410, 400, 400, 420, 400, 410, 280, 280, 280, 280, 280, 280, 280, 110. You get the drift. That's a lot of good coin. There's kind of a uh-oh, even with 2 contracts, decided to take a $10 profit only. So that was probably underwater. I'd have to look at the time and everything. You got it right there if you want to look at it. Then here's 650, 60. Uh-oh, there's some 60 losses right there. But if you do the sum of all things, this is over $300,000. And it proves that doing the type of trades that we're doing, and this is real stuff. This is right off of Trade Journal from TradesViz, and it's on our website. Actually, very soon you're going to see a different area where it says the proof, and the very first thing you'll see are the. Oh, there you go. He's already got them on there. He's already got them on there. He just doesn't have my April as of yet. Okay, so no matter how anybody trades, you're going to have a few losing trades. There's not a question about it. But the key to it is make it as few as possible and then get these monsters. And that's where I think our scripts actually do better than most anybody's out there because of this stair stepping. And that's what this webinar is totally about tonight, is watch for these stair steps. If you're stair stepping down, mid-band trade. You're stair stepping down, phantom trade. Mid-band trade if you want it, add with phantom. Start stair stepping back up. You're looking for mid-band type trades, predictor trades, mid-band trades, mid-band trades. And again, you're just going to see this over and over and over, that frankly it works. I'll tell you another thing too. I've talked to several people that will jump in and they think, that since you can get 5 or 10 ticks that you can do like 10 contracts. I would highly advise against that. I would highly advise against it. Because if you are going with basically more than like 2 or 3 contracts, you'll see if you go down through some of those proofs that some of the times that we've lost like $700 was maybe 4 contracts. Well, that's only 20 ticks. How many trades did you see today with ES, to give an example, that just moved so quick that 20 ticks was gone before you could even hit the trigger? Well, that doesn't happen with ES very often, but it happens with gold all the time. Okay. How do you take a trade setup on OT to take a trade at 60-40, James? You can right click. What you do is just go, like say to the end of the chart here, for instance, and you just go with Object Trader. Just go with Object Trader. And if you wanted to do like, say, let's say that you wanted to take a Fibonacci, to give an example. Let's just say that it comes down and gives you a fib, like a 50%. You could do like this. You could say, okay, I want buy like a limit or market. That's a right click type trade, like right there. And then let's say you wanted a 61. You wanted to buy one more. That's the way you could do that. Maybe you wanted to do one more if they happen to hit the phantom area. Just like that. So if that does come down and touch that, that will fire a market if touched. Okay, now that's a right click type trade. Now, if you just wanted to instead do like a region, to give an example, let's say that it comes down and touches that within a tick or two, then that would fire that trade at that 50%. If I wanted it to trade off the bottom instead, let's say that I did this, I could say, okay, I want to do long inside, and if it comes within 2 ticks of that bottom of that box, it would fire that trade. Or if it goes through the top of the box, it would fire that trade also. It's a long out by 2 ticks and a long inside by 2 ticks. So it should fire the trade right about there. Okay. Stair stepping, I firmly believe, is the key. And just don't go in and out, in and out, in and out all the time. Just make sure that you trust the scripts, trust the Fibonacci's, things like that. I don't even trade this time of night. I mean, to me, this is about as slow as it gets. This is 3 hours later, 2 hours later, pardon me, and that's all it's moved. So would I really trade this trade? No. But if you did, that's it right there. And watch it, it would actually fire. If that gets one more tick, it should fire. I'm not cloning it though, by the way. So if it gets one more tick, it would fire. And I'll bet you it comes down deeper. That's a fake most every time. We don't even care. All right. So get in the habit of watching for these, because they work. Now, one thing I would do, here's another caveat to this too. Don't do a mid-band trade if it doesn't stair step. Do the phantom. Okay. Or just skip it entirely, because it could just be a fake and still head down. Because this is what you would have seen if you were looking at it in real time. You got a high, you got a low, you got a lower high, you got a lower low. Didn't take out the low here, but then it changed trends, right? But if it doesn't stair step at least past this little crook right here, then you really don't want that. And see, it didn't stair step past that. So when they don't do that, then I'm looking for about a 61 to 76% down in this area, and that's what you usually get. Okay, and you'll see that a lot. So if they don't stair step a lot, then don't just jump in them. Okay. Anybody have any questions before we wrap? Dewey, on your question, also don't take a mid-band trade when it makes a massive move. Well, the problem with that is, though, that you're going to miss some good trades. Let me show you real quick. Let's just go back to room time only, because that's only fair. See, like here, this ran a lot, and that mid-band worked. So, that's what I'm saying about Fibonacci's and everything. You just don't know when they're going to pull back. See, because and obviously, if you were seeing this in real time, that doesn't look like a mid-band trade to me either, because I don't like something that just barely pulls back. But you've also got to keep in mind, though, that when they barely pull back like this, they're just not finished going up, so they're not even looking for a fib. It's just a minor pullback. So can you take that trade like on a power dot? Yes. But again, you got to be careful. Yeah, and if it's run massively like this, yeah, be careful. Markets move like this: a leg 1, a leg 2 pullback, a leg 3, that's usually your bigger leg, and then a leg 4. And then most good traders Don't go past that trade. 1, 2, 3, and then they're done, and they wait for a break of that to go the other direction. And that usually happens. Doesn't always happen, but it usually does. Okay? Did this help everybody out a little bit? I mean, these are historical on here, and you'll see that when the room was opened, that trade was called right there. And that trade was called because we had a nice stair-stepping midband. When you have a nice stair-stepping midband, you're looking for those trades. And look for, when you have a little bitty burst, try to get at least 50%. And that was definitely 50% right there. But then if it goes back against you, either get out or add with the phantom, because you'll usually get a 1, 2, 3 when you do. Okay? All right. I hope this helped everybody. Thank you very much for coming to my webinar tonight. It was recorded. All right. Anybody have any final questions? Yeah. You will notice, though, when you check out those proofs and everything, you'll see deposits that are real. You'll see Apex certificates that are real. You'll see take profit that are real deposits. You'll see trades. You're going to see some losses. I've never said I don't lose on a trade. If anybody can ever say they don't lose on a trade, they're liars. Because I try not to, obviously. We all do. But I can tell you this, that the ones that'll get you, as a rule, they slap you. And you just got to make your mind up. Like, for instance, if it takes 14 minutes to 45 minutes, and you're only up $100 and then you're down 200, then hit the button and take a $200 loss instead, because you're more than likely going to lose more. It's all about how they move them too. Because when we traded this morning right here, we actually traded right here exactly. That's what I saw when I got up. It looks like a downtrend, doesn't it? So you think, okay, I'll go ahead and just short that puppy, right? But then you drew your line in the sand long short right across there and right across here, like so. And when they took that out, they weren't heading down anymore. Yeah, that's key to trading right there. You got to draw on your charts. We'll have another line in the sand long short type webinar and put it on the website even. But Pat is also working on getting this trade for us to where it'll be in your list. That'll look for that trade automatically if you want it. Okay, so we're gonna have a mid-band trade, stair stepper only. A phantom trade doesn't necessarily have to stair step, but it does have to change trends, and it does have to take out the side resistance. And the line in the sand, that should be 3 good trades. Okay, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed it. Bye everyone, thanks. See you in the morning.